Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Tamiracles Productions. I'm hoping that you're going to feel me on this one because I am coming straight from my heart, and I'm hoping and praying that we can turn this around and get ourselves out of this slave wage society.
They always be like, if y'all are native or if y'all are indigenous, why don't you speak your native language? Why don't you speak your native tongue? This is why. This right here is why. They literally put things over our mouths that would cut the tongue if they spoke in their native language. This is why we don't speak our native language to this day.
You discussing Indian blood? We're going to judge people by whether they have Indian blood, whether they're qualified to run a gaming casino or not?
That probably is me, absolutely. Because I'll tell you what, if you look at some of the reservations that you've approved, you, sir, in your great wisdom have approved, I will tell you right now, they don't look like Indians to me, and they don't look like the Indians. Now, maybe we say politically correct or not politically correct. They don't look like Indians to me, and they don't look like Indians to Indians, and a lot of people are laughing at it, and you're telling how tough it is, how rough it is to get approved. Well, you go up to Connecticut, and you look. Now, they don't look like Indians to me, sir.
What we just witnessed was Donald Trump on MSNBC admitting that America has a breed out process where the Indians that are on the reservations today getting all of this funding for casino income are not the real royal blood Indians. They had a breed out process where they raped a lot of the Indian, native, indigenous women, married them, and put a lot of the lighter color $5 Caucasians in positions as gatekeepers to ensure that the real royal bloodline of us indigenous people were not accepted into those tribes.
What culture do you consider yourself a part of?
I am Cherokee Native American, born here in Virginia. I have no African heritage whatsoever and no African relatives. I am all Cherokee Indian.
How come?
You probably are too.
Well, why do you say that?
Because the Indian is black, actually. It's the same people that Columbus met when he got off the boat. We are not African. This is Richmond, Virginia, where the first 20 slaves landed. There's no record of any other slaves landing here. Those 20 Africans that landed here were on a boat that was hijacked by Portuguese. The real black slaves here were Portuguese. Most of the slaves in this country were actually white, not black. My people owned slaves. We weren't slave owners. 96% of the southern slaves were owned by the 5 tribes of the Lakota. I am Cherokee, the largest of the 5 tribes.
All right. Appreciate it, man.
10-4. You have a good one.
The 1989 United States Constitution, Article 1, Section 2, basically says that everyone can be taxed, excluding Indians. They are the only ones that cannot be taxed. So they call you all of these prisoners of war titles such as slave, Negro, mulatto, colored, African American, minority. All of these names they call you. So basically they're political terms so that they can tax you. Basically, this is why you can work 40 hours a week and you can gross a check for $1,000 and it nets out to be $400 because they have taken the taxes out because on your birth certificate it says you're black. Let's talk about it. This is an illustration called School Begin and was published in 1899 on January 25th. And it basically shows American imperialism. In it, Uncle Sam is the biggest of all the characters. The Philippines is represented as a small kid that is barefoot. The message of this cartoon is that the United States is the most civil country and other countries have to be taught to become civilized. By picturing other countries as racist this way, the illustration portrays the United States as superior to everyone, similar to what we've learned in school. What else is here? The cartoons portray many of the ideas that the United States point of view. This political cartoon should be addressed for its portrayal of the new territories, namely Cuba, Puerto Rico, Hawaii, and the Philippines as dark-skinned children who are seen pouting as Uncle Sam lectures them to that you've got to learn these lessons whether you want to or not. But just take a look at the class ahead of you and remember that in a little time you will feel as glad to be here as they are. The other children that Uncle Sam is referring to are well-dressed and attentively reading their books. These other children represent state territories as the United States has had for a while, such as Texas, California, New Mexico, Arizona, Alaska. The presumption is that eventually these 4 new territories will eventually become civilized and a part of the Union. Beyond the clear opinion of the cartoon that what the United States is doing with these new territories is an overall good thing, using the ends justify the means argument, school begins, also has a clear racial bias. All 4 of the new territories are represented by dark skin, while all of the good students bearing Alaska are portrayed as white. In the background of the cartoon, the racial bias is even more evident. There's an African-American kid with an ape-like grin and cross-eyed who is washing the windows behind Uncle Sam. By the door, there's a Native American with a feather sticking out of his head trying to read a book upside down. And there's a Chinese kid with squinted eyes and a queue appearing to want to come in. This clear bias towards white people being civilized and people with darker complexions being either stupid or uncivilized was common in the United States and Europe at that time. This racial bias was used to legitimize the rise of imperialism within Europe and the United States. School Begin serves as a very informative cartoon for understanding the racial undertones of the imperialist idea of America at that time. This political cartoon should first be addressed for its portrayal of the new territories, namely Cuba, Puerto Rico, Hawaii, and the Philippines, as dark-skinned school children who are seen pouting as Uncle Sam lectures them to that you've got to learn these lessons whether you want to or not. But just take a look at the classroom ahead of you and remember that in a little while you will feel as glad to be here as they are. The other children that Uncle Sam is referring to are well-dressed and attentively reading their books. These other children represent state territories that the United States has had for a while, such as Texas in 1845, California in 1850, and New Mexico territories, Arizona territories, and Alaska territories. The presumption is that eventually these 4 new territories will eventually become civilized and become a part of the Union. The United States Corporation, and that's all it is, has a statute and codes that they live by. And here's one, the United States Information and Educational Exchange Act of 1948. Basically, in Section 222 U.S.C. 1431, it states the Congress hereby declares that the objective of this act are to enable the government of the United States to promote a better understanding of the United States and other countries, and to increase mutual understanding between the people of the United States and the people of other countries. Among the means to be used in achieving these objectives are 1. An information service to disseminate abroad information about the United States, its people, and policies promulgated by the Congress, the President, the Secretary of State, and other responsible officials of the government having to do with matters affecting foreign affairs. So basically what they're saying is they have provisions in place to assimilate information about how you perceive what the America is, not just here, but in foreign companies too. They have a system in place to teach us here in America, and then they have a system in place to teach other foreign companies about America. For example, they got us in elementary schools with songs like "This Land is Your Land, This Land is Our Land." Also the national anthem, "The Home of the Brave and the Land of the Free." The Army logo, "You can be all that you can be." Right? They're calling your country the land of the free while forcing a slave narrative down our throats, stating that our ancestors worked 24/7, 365 days out the week. So again, they are indoctrinating us with their programming centers called schools, which they started at 5 years old, and then they put us on. They put us under light code lockdown, where they put us in school in a program center, turn the lights on us, and begin to indoctrinate us about how this country was built by. They began to indoctrinate us with stories, for example, about Christopher Columbus, who discovered America. How can you discover a country where people were already living? And also, they gave us portraits of Christopher Columbus, clearly portraying him as white or a European. However, here is a clip that we're getting ready to review that was aired through the History Channel to a foreign country, portraying Christopher Columbus as black.
Since the earliest days of oceanic exploration, sailors have witnessed strange sights.
Really, the awareness of the Bermuda Triangle started with Christopher Columbus being such an esoteric navigator and a well-respected sailor.
Wait, hold on now. Check ball up top, as we see in Chicago. What does he mean? Esoteric navigator. Europeans aren't esoteric navigators. Moors are esoteric navigators. And if Christopher Columbus was black and could esoterically navigate the seas, that made him a Moor. And if that is true, that means the Indians were colonized and conquered not by Europeans. They were enslaved by copper-colored melanated people just like you and I. And that's how they were able to move in and subdue us. They tricked us by our own people. My grandfather was born in 1800, and in the United States, 1800, during the time that he lived, this is what America looked like. Every corner from the east to the west, to the south to the north, was occupied by Indian. There you have Blackfeet right up there in the left-hand corner. My grandmother said there were Blackfoot, so Blackfoot is in the house today. There you have Potawatomi. There you have Sigfox, Ottawa, Algonquin, Huron. This map even has the Trail of Tears on it. Every inch of this United States was occupied by Indians. All the tribes now that are left that they didn't kill off are located in Oklahoma, Miami, Ottawa, Chickasaw, Choctaw, Creek. As you can see, nothing but dark-skinned, melanated, copper-tone people. Look how dark they're at. That right there, Somali, that's Florida now. That's all Florida right now. Okay, this is a map that I have. Every aspect of this land was owned by an Indian. The United States was built on theft of Native American land. This is what it looked like in 1784, 1820. It starts dwindling. This is what the pilgrimers did. And this is what's left. The green you see are the Indian reservations that are existing to now, which are the $5 Indians. Here, the tribes where my grandfather was in South Carolina, none of them exist today. If you have family that lived in Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, any of those southern states, you are indigenous. This is your land that was stolen. This is a chart of research done by the Congressional Research Service for Natural Resources Council of Maine, Idaho Parks and Recreation of the United States Department of Agriculture. And it basically shows who owns the United States. As you can see, the federal government owns 28.7%. Corporations own 13.4%. 43.9% is owned by white private landowners. We have state governments that own land. 2.5% are tribes. Even 1.5% is owned by foreign investors. They even have dibs on the land. Where are we on this chart? As I researched my own pedigree, family lineage, which is not easy because the information is buried down at the bottom of the earth, I was able to discover the United States Census shows that Indian names were changed to English names. On this document that I have here, it says that Indian names, on the left-hand side of this document, the column says Indian names, which is completely blank. There's not a name there. But on the right side of this document, it says English names. And there my great-great-grandfather's name is right there. Allen Williams, his wife Betty Williams, his 9 children there, Mattie Mae Williams, Edna Williams. all Williams are, which are surnames from their Indian names. This is why Martin Luther King, and I'm not promoting him, but this is what Martin Luther King said, black men have been exiled on their own land, and now it makes sense because this land is now being operated by foreign wicked occultists. Erased from history is American Indian. Making money is an action, keeping money is behavior, but growing money is wisdom. You cannot grow money if you do not own land. Listen, family, we know we've been oppressed, captured in bondage, stripped of our identity by the oppressor, and yet we continue to live our lives and brush this under the rug. We need warriors who are ready to die by a cause, not by a system of peace, love, and reflection. We are not ready for the consequences behind it, and we are not ready to let go of entertainment, fashion, and every other pagan things that we celebrate, not even knowing the backstories of what we are actually compromising. It is time that we come out of this beast system. We cannot continue to be a battery pack for this system. Do you realize that this system is operating off of your energy, and at any given time we can withdraw energy and change this whole dimension around? Aren't you tired? Aren't you tired of working for your money and not attracting the money to you? We cannot continue to do the same things over and over again, expecting a different result. As I said before, if you have family that are from any of these southern states or any of these states, you were born here, you are indigenous. I'm not saying that they weren't slaves. People that were slaves, they know they were slaves. And their oral history has been passed down from their slave ancestors. If your grandparents do not have any memories of this, then you are not a slave. You are indigenous, native to this land. And I am so sick and tired of seeing people sad, seeing people withdrawn, seeing people dying with unlived blood in their veins because they left this planet not knowing who they really are. We know that our history has been stolen. We know that our identity has been stolen. And it is time that we reclaim ourselves and nationalize ourselves. We have never nationalized ourselves because we weren't a part of the name ceremony of naming ourselves. So if your grandparents told you that you was a Blackfoot, please leave me a comment in the comment section because we're family. If your grandparents left you with any oral history that you were Indian, please leave your Indian heritage in the comment section because we cannot be named after two continents. Not a country, but two continents. We should have a problem with that. Let's go, Blackfoots.
Y'all single-handedly own the power and you can't even see it. They know that y'all single-handedly hold the cards to all of this shit in this nation. God, please just wake up and see what kind of control you actually have. If you really want to get technical, y'all are the ones that can save this country. Because the minute that y'all actually see through their bullshit is when they lose their wealth. Talk about white privilege. They will lose their wealth. They bank on y'all. They bank on y'all remaining stagnant with their bullshit. I can't wait to see this shit unfold because I'm going to tell you, there's one by one, they waking up. Y'all better get ready. One by one, they're waking up to rich man's bullshit. And they're seeing and they're standing their ground. And once they lose the black vote, it's on like a Donkey Kong.